It was the bloodiest end to an industrial strike that we have seen in modern democratic South Africa. 34 miners lost their lives, leaving scores of victims and countless widows and orphans. On today's show, we speak to the man whose union led that industrial action. AMCU President Joseph Mathunjwa discusses with me what has changed since then, and is President Ramaphosa any closer to reconciling with some of those victims? Here is my interview.
One cannot say there's much that has changed, because here we are dealing with a system. The system you cannot just overrule overnight. It's a process, it's a journey. So workers, we as trade unions, we can do so much, but the state is the one that has a legislature to change the lives of the people. But one for sure can attest to say the workers at Marikana, at Lone Mill in particular, or in the Platinum Belt, their life has changed since AMCU is the most majority union. So you could see the way they live in their homelands. They build beautiful houses that you cannot even find in some of the townships here in South Africa. That shows that AMCU has made the lives of the workers better than before.
President Mathunjwa, you say that you're really fighting a system here. My question is, do you feel the system is geared against AMCU or geared against unions as a whole?
Not against the union as a whole, in particular the unions that are not part of the alliance. We have experienced that. You remember after the 5-month strike, there was a Huruleni declaration where the Labour Relations Act was changed. Before it was about majoritism. And then after AMCU dominated these minds, was talking about sufficient representatives. And we still find it very difficult for AMCU where they have sufficient representative. The CCMA that doesn't allow us to give us those rights. But when NUM asks for organizational right with sufficient membership, the CCMA is quick to give to them. So you could see clearly that every law that has been amended is amended to suit certain trade unions and suffocate AMCU.
Dr. Mathunjwa, one cannot think about Marikana without necessarily thinking about the president's emails and how they still today infer that he might have played a role, whether wittingly or otherwise, in the events of that day. Has the president come closer to the victims and the widows of that fateful day? Have we seen his actions, representing his words? He said that he's going to try and reconcile, make peace, and apologize. Has he taken steps to suggest this?
I won't say what we know. We submitted the memorandum or the list of demands representing workers, representing the widows, of which it's more than 5 months ago, which we haven't received any response to that effect. And it is a process. So therefore, I cannot talk much because I haven't seen any tangible things that he has committed to or he has done to suggest that, yes, there is a willingness of coming closer to bury the hatches and move forward.
If he picks up his phone and gives you a call and says, could you accompany him to Marikana as a leader of AMCU and a very dominant voice within that area, would you indulge the president?
It depends when.
If he gives you a call on Thursday, saying Friday.
I think that it will be very opportunistic. It will be a public relation exercise. I don't think it can reduce such a thing like Marikana to that level. It's a process. We talk about the feelings of the people, the emotions of the people.
What are the feelings of the people about the role that has been attributed to the president?
I think the status quo still remained. They still view him as a person who originated, the massacre at the end of the day. So therefore, in as much as we cannot be sitting with that cloud, We have to move forward, but we suggested the processes that should be followed. So surely even the families, if they just see him rocking up on Friday, surely there will be pandemonium. People will be just confused what is happening, and they will lose focus. He has to come up calmly as it is, with the due processes that need to be followed. As an African person, he understands very well if such thing could have happened or has happened, how to go to the families, how to approach the family. But I'll be willingly, gladly accompany him. I mean, the workers, they've given us that mandate that if the office of the president wants to come us, they must start with the office of the president of AMCU and then start the processes.
Let's get back to the acquisition that Sibanye made of Lonmin.
The swallowing of Lonmin.
Swallowing is another term. But were you not surprised at how, in fact, what did the haste at which, the merger was approved suggest to you?
I think one should look back that when the Stillwater was purchased by Sibanye, where did Sibanye acquire that money? So we need to start there. I mean, where was the money coming from?
They'll say they went on a capital raising.
Yeah,
and
capital raising. Yeah, African, maybe PIC also was involved. You never know. So all those things need to come to the fore. And then moving forward, why especially Lonmin? So it's clear. Remember the utterances of their CEO even before that we knew that there was some engagement. He said, I'll deal with AMCU. I'm not scared of AMCU. And the haste side of it, where the Competitions Commission agreed to a merger where 13,000 position employees will lose their job. And then it was very questionable at the country where we are ravaged by unemployment. And how could the state or the government allow such, a merger?
You had a relationship with the former CEO of Lonmin, of course, Ben Magara. It was even closer because, of course, he only took over after the Marikana massacre. One is inclined to ask the question, do you believe that the acquisition of Lonmin was somehow someone trying to wipe Lonmin off the memory and the consciousness?
You're correct. This was a political decision. We don't believe that it was a sincere transaction. No. It was to do politically and to wipe the memories of Marikana and what has happened to Lonmin. So therefore, it's clear because there is no sensitivity. I think now it exposes, is more clearer now when Sibanye is saying they're going to offer the workers 300 rand. It's clear that their intention was not to better the conditions of employment, but to wipe off Lonmin or to close down Lonmin for that fact.
You also said something that if the president is sincere in his approach towards trying to find a settlement, he would recognize the 16th of August as a workers' day, and you would see that as a genuine attempt by him to try and make amends. Surely the appetite wouldn't necessarily be there, considering the president is part of an alliance which has a workers' day on the 1st of May. But are there little things that can be done? And what do you think they are that would come, of course?
I think that one is a significant one. The May Day, yes, it is internationally recognized, but it's something that has got its own struggle credentials in U.S. So whereby the workers, whoever, were fighting for the better working hours and so forth. So we've got our own history. We've got our own struggle, which the history must talk to it. So therefore, irrespective whether it's an alliance of what, as a president, I think he's got that veto to say, indeed, Parliament, this is our history. They mustn't be embarrassed to say it's the NC government that killed the workers. It's the government of the NC. But the fact of the matter, the significant thing is the 16th of August to be made a public holiday.
My final question, You've said that job cuts happen with or without wage demands being put on employers. Are you not perhaps even more worried now, considering the ruthlessness, I guess, at which the entrance of Sibanye, I guess, means for the platinum industry? Are you not worried about that reprisal?
If Sibanye push for the revolution, I think it need to be assisted. It need to be assisted. I think they are making it easy for the South African to wake up from its slumber. We are not going to be oppressed by the captain of the industry, by our own minerals. That's the first thing that they need to realize. Secondly, AMCU is been campaigning for the amendments of Mine Health and Safety Act, for the COs to be accountable for each and every death of the breadwinner. Nothing has happened. AMCU is been campaigning on the issue of the Labor Relations Act Section 189 to say it's the only country in the world that gives the workers in the silver platter of the capital that if you don't meet your target of the profit, workers must be a sacrificial lamb. And the government hasn't done anything. The issue of a modern slave trade is happening right under our nose in terms of Section 197. This is what is happening at Sibanye. You are being sold to the next company sitting in London, whatever stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange, they change, they value their shares, and then you are being transferred to a master of which you don't know of, with the conditions that you never negotiated. After 12 months, I can change any conditions of employment you had. That's a modern slave trade that is happening under our nose, but our government is just clapping hands.
Thank you very much for being with us on this edition of Political Capital. We're back on your screen next Tuesday at 6:30 Central African Time. Until then, keep it locked right here on CNBC Africa.